Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Books with Friends. My name is Chantel Grant. I am your friend and your host, and I'm so excited to be here tonight talking about Jazz by the brilliant and the beloved Toni Morrison. Jazz is a book that takes place in 1920s Harlem, and it is a book, you guys, that you can feel the music. You can feel the rhythm of the characters. You also can feel the pulse of the love, longing, and all of those ups and downs that really just also encaptures Harlem in the 1920s. Tonight, I am joined by my friend, Sean Campbell, and I'm so excited that he actually put this book in my hand, so to speak, and I cannot wait to get in the conversation with him tonight. Before we do so, I just want to say that we are going to talk about everything. So this is definitely a spoiler zone. And I also want to encourage you, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to this channel so that you can always hang out with me. All right, without further ado, let's jump right on into it. Sean, thank you so much for being here with me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Chantel.
And a big, big thank you for telling me to read this book. Yes.
So, I think everybody needs a little jazz, and
everybody needs a little jazz in their life. So I, when I was talking to Sean, and we were talking about him reading a book with me, and I said, "Well, you make a suggestion," and he said, "Okay, well, we're going to read my favorite book by Toni Morrison, Jazz," and I was like, "Oh my gosh," because admittingly, and this is hard for people to believe, I have not read a Toni Morrison book. I think I started Paradise. I didn't finish it. I highly respect Toni Morrison, and I have all of her books. I just never read them. So when you said Jazz, I was like, oh, ooh. But I'm so glad.
Yeah,
that I took it like an assignment. And I'm glad that I had the assignment from you. So I just wanted to start out and say thank you.
I'm so glad to have helped. Now, it's interesting that you should say that you started Paradise, because I don't know if you know, but Jazz is part of a trilogy. Mm-hmm. It begins with Beloved. Jazz is the second book in the trilogy, and Paradise is the third. So to have started there, it's almost like you began the trilogy in reverse. But it's not like a general trilogy where it's like a chronological telling of a tale or anything. It's more about love. So I noticed on the flyer for today, you pointed out love in that.
Yes.
And it's the different ways we look at love, like love perverted, love, death, jealousy, forgiveness, right? Okay. So it's the different ways we look at love, or the way love has been perverted, often in the Black community, as a result of slavery and how that all came through. But I'm already getting on my soapbox. Okay,
no, that's good, because see, I told you were going to school me tonight, and that's what I am here for. I'm here for that. Yeah, I love that this story, when I was reading up on it and reading an article that Toni Morrison wrote about this, and she said that she wanted to tell a love story. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to tell a complicated, like, love story, which I really took in the sense of she wanted to tell a complete love story, a realistic love story, mm-hmm. you know, in a way, like in the innards, you know, that love that's that gray space, love story.
Right.
And I think that what you said is like the complications and implications that are attached to Black love, especially during that time,
Exactly.
with what was just attached to them, what they were coming out of, what formed and shaped them. And so, yeah, let's talk about the love.
Okay, so yeah, the love
Let's
is
talk
there,
about the
or
love.
you know what? Even before we get to the love, it's the longing for love, right?
Longing for love.
When I look at it, the only love I see, perhaps, and it's the twisted, dark love, deep down, spooky love, she calls it, is between Joe Trace and Dorcas.
Okay.
Like his feeling for Violet is so much more, this is what you do. Like, this makes sense. We're together, we get along, we can make a life here, right?
Yeah.
But it's not this abiding love until after Dorcas is in the picture and then removed. But he has a possessive type love for her, but love nonetheless.
Yeah.
We also get the inference that Golden Gray has a love for Wild. So that is something that is not expounded upon, but you feel it in the tokens they leave behind, and it's so unconventional, right? So
I want to just say for those listening who haven't read it, or maybe read it in a long time, haven't read it in a long time, that Violet and Joe are married, and at the start of this book, Joe has been having an affair with a much younger Dorcas, and something changes in their relationship, and the book opens with he has shot Dorcas at a rent party, and she dies, and Violet attends her funeral, and she slashes or tries to slash her face. And that's how the book starts. And I'm like, wait a second. So
you
I'm reading
can't
like
not
that.
read it after that, right?
Not read it. Exactly. Even interested Kyrie, he was like, wait a second, I might have to read that one. And so I'm like, okay, wow, okay. So I agree that there's something, and I'm trying to find a part because I'm such a it's that teacher in me. It's that teacher in me, that quote. But there was something that to just to kind of say yes to the point that you made about the different types of love. And then to challenge it a little bit. So Violet says that she chose him.
Right.
She says, on page 105, Violet actually says, the narrator says, Violet claimed him.
Right.
Which is really interesting in two ways. Number one, because the narrator said it, it wasn't a quote from Violet. Which is different than what we get from Joe, because Joe, we hear a lot, like there's this whole chapter basically of just Joe speaking, and we get to hear Joe in quotes, his words. And he does talk about Dorcas as like this passion love, love. But it reminded me of August Wilson's Fences. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, because I'm steering off, because there's this part that Joe, when he talks about Dorcas, and I said right here, I said Fences. He says, he was like, I couldn't talk to nobody but Dorcas, and I told her things I hadn't told myself. With her, I was fresh and new again. And the whole point with like Troy and his girlfriend, and he was like, basically with her, I was able to be a different type of me. I was able to laugh. I was able to, and so I kind of read it as Violet and Joe have been together for 20 years. I think
Mm-hmm.
by the time this book starts. And I think that there were aspects of himself that was unlocked
Mm-hmm.
when he was with Dorcas.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and and maybe the only way he knew how to get to that space within himself was through her or with
Mm-hmm.
her. And so I think it was also kind of a falling in love with oneself in that way.
I like that. I like that. Actually, that makes sense when we think about his inability to live without her. He says, I
Yeah.
can't live without
I
her.
can't, I
Then he kills her,
can't.
right?
Yeah,
Even though I'm killing the thing I can't live without,
out.
it's
Yeah,
what remains, right? What she actually did. So
right,
that yeah, I
right.
like that. I had not considered that because obviously he does become much more introspective
Mm-hmm.
while he's with her. Not only has he not said things to Violet, he's
Mm-hmm.
not said them out loud to himself, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I'd never gone down that
Yeah.
alley, but I really like it. I really like
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I was thinking there was fences, there was Raisin in the Sun and
Mm-hmm.
Jazz. And I was thinking about all the three of these men and both in Fences in this story you had infidelity with
Mm-hmm.
Raisin, but the other thing in common that these men had was, well, and this is what Violet and said about Joe too, is that it was like a child, like this
Mm-hmm.
infant, like not a full man. And I think that that's also part of that challenge of coming out of what we came out of, the
Mm-hmm.
challenge of being a realized full man,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
Manhood was
absolutely.
just such a challenge. And so I think that in the way, like Walter Lee and Raisin and Son, he wanted to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
He was still living under in his mother's household.
Right,
And
yeah.
every
He
day
makes that
was
tragic
seeing my
decision.
son sleeps
Absolutely.
on the couch. My wife, I'm having to go to my mom to get money.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy, even though Troy and Fences had a house, right? He had a
Right.
house, but he only had that house because of the benefits that his brother
His
got
brother,
from
right.
the war,
Yeah.
right? And his
And it
disability.
was still his wife who has to come in and
And
care
it
for
was
his child. So
exactly,
it's this,
it's this
yeah.
whole thing. And so I think these places of escape,
Mm-hmm.
it's these places of escape are understood to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I never, like, I wasn't mad at Joe. Not that I'm saying it's right, y'all. I'm not saying
Right.
it's right to cheat. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying was I understood it.
Right.
And I wasn't left upset with him. And it's not where we are left with it, which is what I think is so brilliant about what she does. What
Right.
she
Yeah.
does is she allows us to explore it.
Uh,
And
yes.
and it's painful because it's humanly messy, and it's part of this mystery of relationships. And I think that one of the other things that, like, really struck me about Violet and Joe was something. It was very quick, um, but it was the death of something, like
Mm-hmm.
something like of a child, right? That they
Right.
were like, we didn't want children, and
Right.
then there was a change of mind, and
Mm-hmm.
then there was the not having kids, and there was the silence.
Yeah. Right.
It was just this withdrawal and silence.
Which
And
makes me wonder now.
mhm,
So you touched on so many things, right?
yes,
So many, right there.
yes,
And for those of you listening, we haven't even skimmed the surface yet, right?
no,
But
no,
we think about, let's start with the silence that happens after Violet starts longing for a child when it's too late.
yep,
And we remember the three miscarriages that she had, which are described as more inconvenience than tragedy. But now she's holding a doll baby at night, and now she wants this child, but she can't talk about it because she's got something going on in her mind. And I wonder how many, especially Black women, because that is where Toni is pulling from, right?
Yeah.
How many have to hold in personal wants, personal pain, all those things that make us truly human because of the nurturing that they're providing elsewhere. Like, I can't be vulnerable because you can't handle my vulnerability, you know?
Right.
So that is one thing. Then I think about Joe's going to a much younger woman. You also spoke about how you weren't so mad with Joe. And this is the brilliance of this book.
Yeah.
Joe is a philandering,
He
murderous,
is. He is.
pedophile, right? He is right on the cusp of
making me feel bad.
Molestation. She's in high school. He's 50. He's like me dealing with a 50-something-year-old. And you have compassion for him.
Compassion.
You are happy when he gets his life back together. Who can do that? Like, that's brilliant to me.
That's brilliant.
All of those things are just like, and doing it all in the backdrop of this music that is surfacing and making you loose and greedy and all of that with the judging eyes of the Christian faith and all wrapping it up. And I think that when we start at the very beginning, at the inscription, right? I'm the name of the sound and the sound of the name. I am the sign of the letter and the designation of the division. So right before we start the story, Morrison takes this quote from Thunder, the Perfect Mind, which is from the Gnostic tradition, like some ancient text found, and then translated. And it is all about a female divinity who is complicated herself. I am all of these things. I am the judgment and the sin, and my sin is wonderful. Like, it's when you read that poem, it's nothing but contradiction all the way through. And so when it opens, I know that woman. Yeah. You're already like, oh goodness, somebody's getting ready to give us the juice, right? Yeah. So it's this brilliant onlooker who's telling us who is divine and nosy, right? Who is judgmental and forgiving. I think here there was one, I'm gonna see if I can find it very quickly, when she's talking about Golden Gray after he goes into his dad's house. I might not find it immediately, but goodness, she talks about how, here it is. Let's see. I'm not going to find it right in a second, Chantel. I'll find it later. Go ahead. Like, I see him here and I can't hate him so much, right?
Yes.
I have to be very careful about how I judge him because he takes care of his horse and he gets his clothes in order without checking on the girl. But before he goes into this house, he wipes his
feet. Know. Yes.
So it's just like, that is what we are. We are so complicated.
We're so complicated.
Yeah. Something else I thought about, and I was talking to my sister about this because we've read this together as a family also. I
love that. I just want to say, family.
Our mother was an English teacher, so we've been doing this since like the Great Pax Whitey in the 6th grade, right?
Okay.
But when like I said, I've read this several times, but this time when I read Joe go in and meet Dorcas the first time at the aunt's house, right? At Aunt Alice's house, and the women, teasing him and all that, I got that. But I saw myself so clearly. Like, this sounds like Toni Morrison is describing me, but this is a murderer in their midst. I'm not a murderer, right? I wouldn't do these things Joe did, but everything that she pointed out, especially like the Southern tradition, having been elsewhere, it is an experience that I actually lived. And I was like, that is frightening. right? Because I have to see myself in them. I have to see myself as one who, under right circumstances, could make a life-altering, horrible decision because I'm
Absolutely.
human, right? Um, and certainly I wouldn't feel any less worthy of being loved or forgiven, right? So it's like this permission to forgive him almost when you start seeing yourself wrapped up in that character. And I just think that that's absolutely brilliant.
It's there's so much um I finished it I was almost late for church
Oh,
because I was like, I have to finish this because I have to for myself. I can't. I was in bed and I'm like, I told my kids, they were like, Mom, we're gonna be late. I can't move, kids. I can't move
until you're going to have to read it again.
until
That's the whole thing.
I, you know, am finished with this book.
Yeah.
And
You said in the very beginning that you could feel the rhythm in that.
yes.
And that's what's so brilliant about this. So we've already said, of course, the title is jazz. But now let's look into jazz as an art form, right? There is a definite rhythm. There's a rhythm in sentence length, word choice. Like the way it reads, it goes up and down. And I have all of these pages dog-eared, which I don't even do. But I did not say what is dog-eared for what. But there, even when she plays with punctuation, we're both English, right? I know you noticed when those run-on sentences began. Like, wait a minute.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like the breathlessness of a trio going on in jazz music when you're I think the whole purpose of jazz is like this reinterpretation of things, right? It is improvisational at times.
Improvisation.
Yeah, and that comes across in the actual way she writes in this, and it's absolutely brilliant, I think.
It is. It was so brilliant. She said, Morrison said, I've written novels in which the structure was designed to enhance meaning, but here in this novel, the structure would equal the meaning.
Oh yeah.
And it's so true. Like you see it in its improvisation, you see it in change and inventiveness. And even with this narrator that is just this full of certainty. My favorite character was actually the narrator.
Yeah. Oh, you have to love the narrator.
The narrator who was full of certainty, who was, front and center, soprano saxophone,
right.
trio. And the way that it starts, the way that the narrator starts, which is just full of certainty. So you're like, okay, I'm entering this world. All right, we're using, we're not using I, it's not first person. And she used to live with a flock of birds on Lenox Avenue. Know her husband too. He's known for an 18-year-old girl, like full of certainty. So I'm like, okay, you're omniscient. You're telling us this story. I'm with it. And then it changes on me. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because what's so brilliant is the narrator who starts off very sure-footed. Like, I know this woman, kind of here are the facts. Here's what happened. I know her husband. I know her house. I know the girl Dorcas. I know the community. I know all about it. And then as we read the story, Kyrie, it's like flip the script. When we read the story as it goes on, it's like, wait a second, there's uncertainty. The narrator learns. It's correction that they make mistakes. And I love the journey from the beginning of certainty, of judgments, almost of it, of this couple and their life, and of being very distant from it, also to by the time we get to the end of it, oh my gosh, the end of it.
Let me pull in real quick, because when you're talking about that, like that certainty And then this is again when Golden Gray comes in, and I can't wait to get to him and the connective tissue that he represents. But she says, I've been careless and stupid, and it infuriates me to discover again how unreliable I am.
Yes.
And my thing is, what? How can you be unreliable now? Like,
yes.
I've been listening to you for 160 pages.
Yes. You are unreliable. Yes.
And the next paragraph says, now I have to think this through carefully, even though I may be doomed to another misunderstanding. That's what we do, though, right? Like,
exactly.
That is the divine in us, like being able to admit that mistake, that error. Exactly. And that's when it just goes completely off the chart for me, because this narrator, Thunder, sounds just like the women I would hear growing up when I sat with my grandmother and her girlfriends instead of being outside like I'm supposed to. I wanted to sit in there because they had the best stories and they had the language to tell it in. And there was just music in the way they spoke. Mm-hmm. And I could hear it, just everything. When she talks about Dorcas, I always knew that girl was fast. Like that her undergarments were older than her age.
That's
even
right.
If her dress wasn't.
That's right. Like, that's right.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
So, Chantel, we talk about this story, right? And those listening, I've heard us talk about Violet and Joe, but did you, I know you locked in onto all the sub-stories, right?
Yes.
And the counter melodies, as in jazz. Yes, you got this one, and then you have all of these stories under it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we've got Violet and True Belle, her grandmother. Who comes to save the day, her mother suicide, and what that does to her as an individual. Mm-hmm. We have Joe with no parents being adopted by this loving family. Learning that his mom is the town spook,
wild woman. Yes.
Who Golden Gray, who True Belle raises, winds up with in a cave. Like, where is all of this? And these two happen to come together. It's almost like a divine joining.
Yeah.
And just like, let's give you this impossible situation, then send you out to the city, give up the southern sky for a northern one, right? And wind up there with this horrible experience, the affair, the murder, and then the reconciliation. How does that work? And to bring it back in, it's just like, those of you listening who've not read it, please read it. You have to. Mm-hmm. You have to.
I think that it is one, I just loved these. It's almost, it's both like so real, her writing, like you said, that language that you're like, I know that language. I know those women. I know it. And then you have elements that are like fanciful a little bit, like a man falling out of a tree. Right. Like, come on, like a man falling out of a tree. And then you have these, I think that those counter notes, as you call them, which I love, these stories, when you put them all together, they are a complete composition, I think, of both the lineage and the inheritance of the lived experience, and of the trauma and the joy, right?
Right.
Of African Americans coming out of slavery, right. and that transition, from slavery into this new place, and the impacts that has, that impacts the strings. So even though they migrated, right? Even though they migrated, their strings, there's still this connective tissue that informs not only their behavior, but also what they feel is possible for themselves.
Yes.
And there is something that, when you have a mother who committed suicide, you had you know, for the grandmother, True Bell, who had to leave her children, right? There's this trauma. You had all of these little deaths that happened, some physical in the physical, but others not physical, but death just the same. And
it might even be more difficult, right?
Yeah, because it's not right. You may not recognize it as death, so you may not treat it as death.
But
and you see, and yet you see this resilience, you see this trying to still make a life, you know what I'm saying, trying to make a life. And I think like this collection of people and stories and intertwinings and connectedness, which to me I read with the golden gray, and like when they're like, oh, they're related. You know, I always have this thing that like, oh, if anybody says they're Virginia, and I'm like, yeah, I'm related to you. Keep talking, I'm gonna find out. Like that, because I think it just kind of to me symbolized how we are connected. You know, we are connected. There is a sharedness within our community.
Yeah,
and I kind of took it, read that storyline in that way, but it was also surprising. It was the surprise element. So like this jazz, you know, one of the reasons why you want to, it's never the same. You know what I'm saying? It's never the same. There's always these surprise elements that you're gonna run into, and yet her surprise elements don't feel contrived and forced.
Right, absolutely.
So corny,
and they just flow in there. It just flows to a sharp.
It just flows.
Way. That is jazz.
It just flows. There's something that you said though that I wanted to touch upon, and I don't know if I'm gonna find it here, but it was about when you said like, what do Black women do? Do they hold it in? Do you remember when you said that? And there is this passage that talks about rest and Black women.
Yes.
And it jumped out to me because of it's on page 16 of the time that we are living in, and hearing Black women, you know, we're resting. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna rest. We're going to take a seat. We're going to take a step back with what's happening politically, and not be the one because we are the ones, right?
Right,
who
absolutely.
Are in the forefront and who are working and pulling. And one of the things that I had when she was talking about rest, the question that I had in my margin is, what is rest? Like what are we really defining? Like, what is the essence of the rest that she's talking about? She says she thinks she longs for rest, a carefree afternoon to decide suddenly to go to the pictures or just to sit at the bird cages and listen to the children play in the snow. But she says this notion of rest, it's attracted to her, but I don't think she would like it. This is again this narrative. They are all like that, these women, waiting for the ease, the space that need not to be filled with anything other than the drift of their own thoughts, but they wouldn't like it. Because what is waiting for them in a suddenly idle moment is the seep of rage, molten, thick and slow moving, mindful in particular about what's in its path, and chooses to bury.
So that, when I think about that kind of rest would knock them down, like they, you know, which says that, and you think about Violet walking across the street, just sitting down in the middle of it.
My gosh, that's one of my favorite quotes.
Yes, it's like just sit right down in the
middle of the street.
Oh, absolutely, exactly. Like not another step, not right now.
Not another step.
Like, you got to love Violet, right?
Yes, I love Violet.
Crazy self, right? She's so crazy. She's wonderful.
Yes.
but like, what did she need that rest for? What was she resting from right then? And I remember this passage that you just read, and I recognize, like, in the women in my family, like, that always was that if there's a time to rest, it does not happen because they will fill that space with something else, something, a way to help someone else. So it's never, just absolutely never resting. And I remember that, but I did not make that connection to Violet sitting down. I didn't read that, knocking them down the same way until you just pulled that out, right? And then that takes me to her meeting Aunt Alice Manford, right? And I think right before we go in that, Toni Morrison says, the woman who would never go in the streets open her door for a woman who sat
down in the street.
And then
there at Aunt Alice's, that's where she was able to rest.
Exactly, when that easiness.
Rest. And
remember, that's care. What Violet wants. Like, what do you want with me? You want to apologize? No, right now I just want to sit down.
I want to sit down.
That's all I want to do.
I'm tired.
I am tired. And even Alice, who comes to look forward to the visits, has to mend her clothes. Like, she's got to do all this busyness and all that until the time when she actually burns the yoke of that shirt, because for a moment she rests. And it breaks everything to the point she curses and laughs until, their belly
breaks.
Something breaks. And that is, I never connected that with the need for rest until you point that out. I think it's always something to discover.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that I think I loved this sisterhood that wasn't a friendship, but it was like a sisterhood that was just there. I respected Alice so much, for this woman whose niece was killed. I respected that and I saw Violet as a wild woman. Like, Violet is she's just this, there's some untamedness, because I think when you're at the point of desperation and you're done, what do I care? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all the pretenses, like, what is it for? And it's also where Violet found her voice.
Yes.
And she was able to speak things out and talk it out in a way to have things drawn out, bubble up out, that was very difficult to do with Joe, but essential for their healing.
Exactly. Like, she couldn't tell Joe. That's why it wasn't a rudeness. It wasn't disinterest. It was, I can't talk about this.
Yeah.
But Alice, she didn't have to explain. And Alice did not have to be kind to her or apologize.
Exactly.
There was no facade.
There was no facade.
You talk about the sisterhood, and it could be my romanticizing thing, but that's what I think when I think of Black women together, honestly. Like this, the way you all call each other girl, and and it's just this thing, like this immediate camaraderie born of a shared reality that is not cute, right? But you thrive in it anyway, and just having a moment to yourselves to be like, this is it. Something's wrong with my head, and I need to figure out what it is.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Something's wrong with my head,
and Alice, do you need some tea? Right? Exactly. And mind you, she went to this woman's, might as well be her daughter, of course, it's her niece, funeral to cut her face.
Exactly.
And then, even that exchange, like, why would you do that to her anyway? And Violet saying, why would she? Right?
Like, I'm not
didn't
hold anything.
This girl. Exactly.
And it gave Violet a space to process her emotions and her actions.
Even to the point of giving her the picture.
Yes.
Like, why would you give a picture to someone who was going to cut a dead girl's face, right?
Exactly.
That to me, I'm thinking you're going to burn it or put some witchcraft roots on it, right? And I'm thinking of the timing of this, right? But even understanding that she needed it, like this is what she needs. And even the Black women in the neighborhood getting sick of Joe for feeling sorry for himself. Like, this is over. We're on to something else. You do not have time to sit in that window wiping your tears. Like, get it together. That is just like, wow. Like,
I also loved how when we talk about this as this love story and the different levels of love, and when we connect it to when you said, is she able to be vulnerable? Because she's so, nurturing and doing for other people. Is there that available space? Is there the knowledge to know how to do that? And one of the parts that I just loved, the actress in me wants to like do it as a monologue. Is violent when it's that self, that self, this self.
Right.
And I just thought it's such a great display of the split self and how because I think what you're talking about in essence is the self that's compartmentalized. And compartmentalization is a response to the trauma itself. It's a protective form, right? And so when she's like that me did that. This me didn't. That me, and you just saw, oh, you're so disjointed.
Right.
And when you look at also Joe, he also was a disjointed self, but we experienced it differently. Like, he's like, no, I love my wife. Like, he wasn't trying to be.
I'm not sorry. You all know I'm not a sorry man. Right? Yeah.
Right. He's like, I'm not that.
Right.
I love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up
the hooks in her skin, the track, right? And so I love that you pulled out that Violet and this Violet. That Violet knew where the knife was and where the funeral was and when to go in the church at the exact moment, right?
That's right.
But even as she processes that and then gets angry, then she says, oh, it's not that Violet, I'm that Violet, and even pulls herself in it. So when we think about Blacks having to leave the South because they're burning the fields, right? They're taking the land, all of that, going to the city, the magical city and that's what we call it here. Like, I remember growing up, people had moved to the city. That might be DC, that might be New York, that might be somewhere in Connecticut, but it was the city, right?
The city.
You moved to LA, and people, when I came back, like, oh, you in the city now. So it was a magical, fantastic place, right? But oh my goodness, when I think about Jesus, I lost my train. How you go there?
No, you were talking about that. I think that self.
Yes. Right. Gosh. It'll come back. Yeah. But while I'm talking about that, when they get to the city, and this is back to the title, talking about when we think about the grooves and the record, like when Dorcas is dismissed by the dancing brothers, right? In the time it takes for the groove to find the spot and for the record to spin, and it crushes her, which makes her vulnerable enough to fall for a 50-year-old because someone sees her, right? But not only the grooves in the record, the streets all laid out for you with their wasteful lamps. Like, the path is lit just like the groove in a jazz record, and you are fairly helpless because the city's gonna call you. And it just amazes me how the different ways she ties in that element. Jazz on a technical term, jazz as a cultural phenomenon, jazz as a historical period. Harlem Renaissance, all that coming into being, and then the actual medium on which jazz is played.
Right.
being reminiscent of the sidewalks in the cities that, by the way, don't appear in the South where they're from. And
Right.
like from the difference between the fields and the
And the
sidewalks
sidewalks.
and
Right.
Joe's ability to find the track, even when he's not looking. So that's where I was going with it. When I
I
think
love that.
about how helpless, impotent Blacks are in the South in that time, you think about, like, thank God I did not have to grow up then, right? Like how humble you have to be or broken or whatever not to fight back. But
Mm-hmm.
you know that there's something in you that, if nothing more than survival, is able to fight back. So when they get to the city, and Morrison, as Bridgman says, it doesn't make them different. It unleashes who they always were.
Right.
So that you get used to being this, I'll let anything happen. I'm just going to keep my head down, whatever. But in the city, you're free to be that thing that will cut a dead girl's face, that will shoot someone who, because you can't bear the thought of them leaving. And it's just, that was one of the, like, when you're that disconnect coming back, when he's like, he knows not to hunt women. I'm sorry, female animals or things that are helpless. Mm-hmm. Never. That's what Hunter's Hunter teaches us. Mm-hmm. And so for him to go shoot a young girl is against everything he knows and has been taught. Mm-hmm. And it is just this instinct thing, an instinctive reaction to, probably, I'm thinking that this is me. I don't know that it was ever Morrison's intention, but that rejection again. Everybody is looking for, but clearly Violet is looking for her mother, right? In elements. Joe's looking for his mom. So they're together, like they both have this horrible existence. Then Dorcas, whose parents are killed in the fire, looking for someone. Even the aunt, whose husband left, and how she's thinking, like, not a victim, I don't think so. I don't think painted red nails, filed short. Just everybody has this longing, and they are able to hold on to someone. Even Mel Vaughn, whose house they laid up in, whose nephew was there, obviously like drug addict or something, stealing mail and everything. Like everybody has this kind of conscripted family that goes away. And it's just a very sad existence, but so reminiscent of that time in the South when you don't get to enjoy your whole family, where Black women have to take care of other people's children and don't even have time for their own. So their sister has to watch them. And
I love your connection with that, and speaking about jazz on all these levels. And it reminded me of this quote that Morrison said. She said, "I was struck by the modernity that jazz anticipated and directed, and by its unreasonable optimism. Whatever the truth, whatever the truth or consequences of individual entanglements and the racial landscape, the music insisted that the past might haunt us, but it would not entrap us. It demanded a future and refused to regard the past as an abused record with no choice but to repeat itself at the crack, and no power on earth could lift the arm that held the needle." And I was like, that's what we contributed. So in this time of the jazz age, where in some histories and maybe in future histories that's coming, Blacks are written out of it, right? With the flapper dresses and F. Scott Fitzgerald and all of that, and yet we're the ones that created, exactly. And I love that. It made sense to me why she wanted to have this form of music be the structure of the story, because it's protest. It's protest music. It's when you have something that's unreasonably optimistic. I just love that. Just a contradiction in that.
Absolutely.
and something that says that our past isn't going to entrap us, that the music doesn't allow for it because it's always inventing. And it's always inventing. And that's what you see. That to me is the hope and the power of this story. Because you see these characters, you see Joe, who's like, I've changed myself, right? Like 7 times. I'm constantly reinventing. You see violence.
Don't we do that though? Still, it's like
we do. Well, we have the power to do that, right? We have the power to do that. And I think one of the greatest things is that it starts off, and the narrator starts off so certain about this couple, so certain about their marriage, about who they are, about what's possible.
One was going to kill the other.
One was going to kill the other. Hey, I'm certain of that too at the start of the book too. I'm like, wait a second. I thought that she said this was about love. And then to get at the end of it and hear the narrator say, I missed it all together. I missed it. Like I was so wrong because what they were counting on is the reinvention. I really think that this is such a timely read for right now.
Absolutely right.
I think that this is part of I think what Morrison did is she honored part of the legacy, part of the pain, the trauma, the reality of it, and the joys and the community, right? The community I really loved. Like we didn't even talk like the community. She honors that. And she's like, it doesn't have to trap us.
Right.
There is an ability to reimagine, to pivot, to change the tune. There is, and the fact that like you have to do that, and it's because so when I read this quote that she said about the record, and you talked about the record on that track, and then at the end of it, there's Dorcas's friend.
Yes, Felix.
Yes, which means happy.
Right.
Which means happy.
Oh.
And she comes and she carries a record.
The record. The okay record, right?
Yes.
But if we go back to the beginning, like that scandalous threesome on Lenox Avenue, but the difference would be who shot, like in the end. And of course, it's the narrator who shot, like just mind blown, because how did this happen from this tragedy? And that goes back to that divinity already seeing the end at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Something else, when I look at timing, like we know the way she weaves those stories together, and you're in the present, you're in the past, we are all over the place, what's going to happen, and and I'm getting to that. But if you notice, first of all, you said it's timely. For now, it's 100 years ago, right? Yeah. It's 1926 in the winter.
Wow.
But the affair starts in October of 1925. He sees her in the store in September of 1925.
Oh my God.
Now we're in September 2025, right?
But I didn't even plan this.
Now, when you look at it, like all that timing I was talking about, something that struck me this time was the seasons are moving backwards while time is doing its whole thing again. So we start in the fall.
Yeah.
And of course, after fall, you go to winter, but we don't. We go to, I think it's, we start in the winter at the funeral, because remember the snow is there.
The snow, right.
And then we go to the fall instead of,
progressing spring.
Winter, fall with the affair. Then we have spring with, when spring comes to the city, and it ends in the summer. So I'm sorry, you have summer and then it ends in the spring as it's getting warm again. And that I never understood or ever never noticed the way the seasons are moving backwards. And so now I've got to do a deeper. I recognize
Yeah,
it too
think
late.
about that.
Like
I
what
didn't
is
catch that either.
exactly what is the importance of season,
Season.
right?
Yeah.
So
I also want to say that Dorcas, I think somebody put it on the thing, like he didn't murder Dorcas. She decided to not get help and died, right?
Which is
And
another
which
contradiction,
is
right?
another contradiction.
Yeah.
And it's also a space of agency for her. And we were able to hear her last thoughts and her last words. And it wasn't it wasn't how the narrator was painting, you know, this.
Right.
So that contradiction too. And I feel like I have to sit with that. Like I'm like, I need to sit with that. And in a way, it was somewhat, I felt, it didn't change how I felt about Joe, but there was some redeeming. There was a little bit of relief, like him learning, oh, I didn't, that woman, I mean, technically, I guess, yes, she didn't get help, but
you
it was
don't
her
want
choice.
to hate Joe. There's nothing in you that wants to hate Joe. You
don't want to hate Joe.
Hold Joe and help heal Joe.
Yeah.
You know, and that's again, that's the most brilliant part of this, how your compassion is to
it's expanded
what would be an antagonist. So this is one of those novels where we see it's written in first person, but unlike most first person narrations, the narrator is not a character in the action. It's just this observer. It's not sometimes she's omniscient, going into their thought. Other times it's very limited or just viewing from one person's point of view, but always there, watching, monitoring, making opinions, right?
Very much to me reminiscent of like Greek gods. And their ways of dealing with, sometimes they're close to the humans, sometimes they're really interacting, sometimes they're distant, you know, always kind of that's the way that it is. But what I love about this narrator and what she's showing is, I think it's a lesson to us, to the reader, is you don't know everything.
You don't know everything.
Don't be certain. And you have to make space for improvisation for yourself and for other people. And I loved the ending where we see the music flow in from the window and we see them dance.
And
and that's the hope. And that felt very authentic.
Yes.
It felt healed. It
felt like they were missing the whole time, right?
Yes. It's like,
in a way, Dorcas is a miscarried child, right? So you have that element.
Yes.
I'm going to say, in addition to the narration and the personage of the narration, is there's no clear antagonist in this, right? Is there? I mean, other than personal tragedy, like everyone has an internal conflict, but I don't see that. Everyone is,
I think that that's what it is. I think that the antagonist is inside of each character. Violet was her own antagonist. Joe was his.
Right.
I think that you had,
even Dorcas was hers.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? No antagonist to the story. Just
exactly. No
so amazing,
and
right?
it's just so amazing. And with Dorcas, when she says, not only is she losing Joe, the narrator says, not only is she losing Joe, but she wonders if she's falling in love with her Dorcas too. And I think that Dorcas was a umbilical cord, a conduit for both of them in different ways. Of a exploring, experiencing parts of themselves that for Joe, I just think didn't even think was possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the season where he met Violet and what was on him, like that type of freedom to love in that way, to
Yeah,
dance, you know,
absolutely.
wasn't. And then for Violet, I think Dorcas was, yes, like this loss that she had, you know, and this
Oh,
reclaiming
yeah.
aspects. Like as she was searching for information about Dorcas and
Mm-hmm.
needing to find out more information about her, it was like she was needing to find out information about herself as well. Like it was like,
Absolutely.
and they both, in different ways, they were both hunters and they were both
Right.
tracking,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, they were
Yeah.
both hunters and they were both tracking, but they
Mm-hmm.
were really thinking, I'm doing this other person, but it was really themselves. And
Yeah.
I think that because there was what the thing that was different was that there was space when that photograph was put in their house on the mantle, and there was a quiet permission for Joe to grieve and cry, and for
Absolutely.
Violet to ask her questions.
To get the questions there, right?
And it
It's
helped
almost
them
like
to
a
find
religious thriller.
themselves. And then you have another 18 or whatever year old girl,
Mm-hmm.
Happy.
Come
She's
up with the
another
Marcel hair.
conduit who
Yeah.
gives them something else that
Right.
helps to heal them
Yeah.
together.
We had talked earlier about Violet's inability to express what was going on in her head and to think that. But if we remember when her mother was tipped out of the chair and
Yeah.
looked at the boards, that was where she got stuck. Because I remember her thinking, if I express this, if I go there, am I going to be caught staring in floorboards,
That's
looking
right.
in an empty cup that was stronger than I am, right?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
So
There's so much.
yeah,
So much.
so much. What you have to do is go read Thunder, the Perfect Mind. It's a poem.
Okay. Okay.
But that epithet in the beginning is like in the second to the last stanza, and the last stanza is just talking about what happens after the death and the reconciliation, which brings this all together. Like so,
Oh my
it's
God.
like
I'm gonna read
you
that.
have to do the work, I think, when you read Morrison,
Yeah.
because it's going to be a beautiful read. You'll get a story, you'll appreciate the language, but there's so much learning
So much
that's
more.
taking place.
You
Yeah.
know, you're so right. When I finished it, and then my first word was wow. I just kept
Yeah.
saying to the house, like, wow.
Oh yeah.
And I said, I need to have more time and I still need to process what I just experienced. And today I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to read this again. Like I
Oh,
want
you got it. Yes. Yes.
this is like there's so many layers, so much stuff. And I'm so grateful for our conversation tonight.
Me
I
too. We're gonna pick it up again in
yes,
Ohio.
yes, and yes,
This
yes,
is gonna be a
yes,
constant conversation,
yes.
clearly.
It's gonna
What
be
did we not get to?
yes,
But
exactly.
Chantal,
Because
thank you
there's
so
so
much
much.
for having me on. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited, and I'm so
Yes,
glad you enjoyed the
yes,
book. I want to come back and do another one. So,
yes.
but that will be
Absolutely. We
your
will do
choosing.
another.
So,
We will
yeah,
do. Yes,
get
I will
me
choose
booked
next
sometime.
time.
Okay.
And before we wrap up, I just want to say that next week we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to be talking with author Camille Harwood, and her book Carolina Girls, Sunset Beach. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation with her. And thank you guys so much for hanging out. Again, Sean, thank you for being such a great friend to not only come on the show and talk books with me, but to give me the gift of jazz. So that's just you have changed my my world here. So until next time, you guys, again, thanks for joining us, and stay reading. Bye.
Bye bye.